Gynecologists, what is the most disgusting thing you have seen? Gynecologist here. Sometimes I come across unpleasant cases, like when a girl walks around for days or even weeks with the same tampon. Necrotic pussy cancer doesn't look great either, but even that doesn't come close to the worst case I've ever seen in my life. One day, a 19-year-old girl came to our clinic and complained that she had a hairspray cap stuck in her pussy. Well, that's not a problem, I thought naively, but the catch was that she shoved it in there when she was 15. That is 4 years ago. She didn't explain her motivation, but it was clear she was very ashamed. Even before she undressed, you could already smell an absolutely horrible stench, which got way worse once I started examining the problem. The cap was shoved in edge up, and you could see that after 4 years, it had grown deep into the vaginal tissue. The removal was even harder because the cap had punctured both her bladder and rectum. To get it out, she had to go through multiple major surgeries. I'm not a gynecologist, but I know someone who recently had a hysterectomy. Basically, she had stitches inside her vagina that needed time to heal. But she was so desperate to have sex again that she just couldn't wait. She gave in, and as a result, her small intestine literally fell out of her vagina. They told me everything in such graphic detail that I don't think I'll ever be able to eat ground meat again. According to the girl herself, on the way to emergency surgery, she could feel her intestine pulsing on her leg. Back in high school, I had a friend who was terrified of going to the gynecologist. When she finally worked up the courage to get her first pap smear, she got so nervous that she clamped the doctor between her legs like a vice. According to her, it took a while before she could calm down enough to release the poor doctor. It was incredibly awkward. She laughs about it now, of course, but her shyness about anything related to her lady parts never really went away. She doesn't even like using tampons. I'm not a gynecologist, but I do some checkups from time to time. One time I pulled out a tampon that had been in there for at least a month, and the wildest part? The girl had been having sex the whole time. The smell was absolutely horrific. After she left, it took hours to air out the room. We just wandered around the clinic trying not to throw up. My dad once told me about a woman who had a serious heroin addiction, and for some completely insane reason, she decided to get creative one day and injected herself right into her labia. Bit late with the reply, but here goes. I'm a med student, just a few weeks away from becoming a full-fledged doctor, though not exactly a gynecologist. Back during my gynecology rotation, I was sent to examine this one woman. The moment I walked into the room, the smell was so bad, I genuinely thought I was about to see the worst bacterial vaginosis of my life. I start the exam, get in there, and start looking around. But there's nothing unusual. No discharge, no signs of infection. Weird. I start backing up and suddenly I realize the farther away I get, the worse the smell gets. Turns out it wasn't vaginosis at all. Her feet just reeked, like horrifically. I have a story that's not about vagina, but it's about boobs. And trust me, it's just as disgusting. Back in high school, I participated in a program that allowed seniors to do short-term internships. While others picked different places, I chose the emergency trauma center. One day, a very overweight woman was brought in complaining about pain in her chest. Right away, we noticed a strong, extremely unpleasant odor coming from her. The doctor decided she needed to be cleaned before examination. When he lifted one of her breasts, the smell became so overpowering that the whole medical team nearly passed out. Underneath, there was a colorless, almost transparent crust. The doctor began cleaning the area, and as the crust peeled off, a small hole was revealed. Then tiny insects began crawling out of it. My mom once told me a story that I still think is the most disgusting hospital story I've ever heard. There was a patient around 50 years old, extremely overweight, about 227 kilograms, roughly 500 pounds. She came in saying her husband had noticed a strange smell during sex, but here's the thing, it wasn't just her husband who noticed it. The entire hospital could smell it. I don't remember every single detail, but in the end, it turned out that her entire vaginal area was necrotic. It required surgical intervention, but even that couldn't save her. She passed away not long after. The best or worst part, her husband was the first to notice that hellish smell, and during sex, no less. I'm not a gynecologist, but I've seen some horrifying stuff too. 1. I once saw a woman with vaginal cancer. Later, I witnessed what happened to her after a full removal of the vagina and cervix. It wasn't a pleasant sight. I can't explain all the procedures in detail since I was just a young medical student back then, but in the end, all that was left of her former organs was a large hollow cavity that kept leaking something. The poor woman was so devastated that she begged her husband to leave her, saying, and I quote, "After this, you'll never be able to love me again." But he turned out to be an amazing man. He stayed by her bedside the entire time, held her hand, comforted her, and showered her with love. You could tell he absolutely adored her. 2. We admitted a 220-kilogram woman who had paralysis in her lower limbs. She had a massive ulcer and necrotizing fasciitis that had completely destroyed everything in the genital and buttock area. Her rectum was eroded, but we figured that out because feces were leaking from multiple parts of the damaged tissue. When the doctors asked us to collect a urine sample, we discovered that her bladder was basically gone. Same with her vagina. There was nothing left. The team decided to at least try and pack the wound. It took 6 of us to carefully turn her on her side, and then we started stuffing gauze into this massive cavity, just hoping she wouldn't defecate in the middle of the procedure. She passed away very soon after. In cases like this, there's nothing we can really do. I work as a nurse in a gynecology ward. Strangely enough, I rarely encounter anything truly horrific. Most women here are quite meticulous when it comes to their vaginas. And honestly, the vagina is an incredibly resilient organ. It can withstand even the most improper treatment. The worst case I ever saw was a woman who came in for a hysterectomy. During the beginning of the surgery, the surgeon made a mistake and accidentally nicked her bowel. They decided to halt the procedure until the bowel had time to heal, but things didn't go as planned. It didn't heal properly, and eventually the bowel ended up fusing with the post-operative wound on her abdomen, creating a fistula, a channel through which feces started to leak. And let me tell you, a wound that leaks feces is not something that heals easily. She ended up staying in the hospital for 9 months, battling infection after infection. There were wound dehiscences, endless complex dressings that took hours, and so on. At one point, her fecal wound had gotten so massive that I could easily fit both of my fists into it. Eventually, they gave her a permanent colostomy, a poop bag, and from what I last heard, they never even managed to remove her uterus in the end. Thanks for watching. If you're a gynecologist, feel free to share your most horrifying stories in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more wild medical tales. And oh, bon appetit if you were eating. See you next time. Bye.